Warm welcome to our viewers today to our series Natural Medicine. And we have a very interesting topic today. We're talking about the pineal gland and all the regulatory hormones, and this is miraculously controlled with a really great guest. Unfortunately, cannot be here in person today, but he's connected from Mallorca. Peer Zebergs, and I'm very happy. Hi, Peer.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning. Yes, I would say this is your favourite topic, the pineal gland, isn't it?
Yeah, one of them. My favourite subjects are hexagonal water, pineal gland, mitochondria, these things, but the pineal gland is one of them because I think it's completely underestimated how important this little part is.
Yes, I can't remember either that I learned anything about this pineal gland during my training. But we had already spoken in advance about all the functions behind it. Maybe you can start by summarising the whole potential behind this gland.
In the old days, the value of the pineal gland was well known. Let me put it this way. The picture of the pineal gland is also basically like a pine cone, which is why it's also called pineal gland. And the structure of the pineal gland, incidentally, it follows a magic Fibonacci number spiral. And Fibonacci was a mathematician who basically decoded nature in the Middle Ages and has found that behind nature, so how seeds develop and how leaves develop, how trees develop and how blossoms develop, that there's always a code behind. And the pineal gland corresponds exactly to this Fibonacci code, which is perhaps quite interesting. And this illustration of the pineal gland plays a huge role in many religions because it used to be said that it is the third eye, or it's the eye of Horus, so to speak. It's responsible for spirituality and for intuition and so on. And today, of course, we know a lot more scientifically what's actually going on. The pineal gland, for example, has magnetites. These are antenna crystals which can absorb all possible radiations and also electromagnetic radiation. That's why it's very sensitive to electric smog and especially 4G, 5G. So that's not good for the pineal glands. What are the main functions?
Where is it actually sitting?
The pineal gland sits at the top of the spine. But now comes a point. It's very close to the brain, but outside the blood-brain barrier because it consists of the same tissue as the palate. So it's not part of the brain, but it's outside the brain. But of course it has an incredible amount of interaction with the brain. There's a lot of communication back and forth. But that already describes the problem. If it's outside the blood-brain barrier, it's simply not protected against, let's say, invaders, bacteria, viruses, toxins, foreign substances, everything that's in the blood, or against the actual immune system. The chemical warriors from your own immune system are not allowed into the brain because if they fight something there, they leave so much collateral damage. And neuroplasticity in the brain doesn't work as fast, but it could be repaired well. And that's why there's this blood-brain barrier. It's like a kind of fat layer where almost nothing gets through, or only what is wanted by nature. But that means at the same time everything comes to the pineal gland. Now, there's a lot of membrane. If you imagine it like a spruce cane, it has a lot of membrane. Toxins can accumulate there, and now there are things that I don't understand why all of this is still allowed today. Fluoride is known exactly. It is in tooth water, in many toothpastes. In some cases, it's even added to salt.
It is currently being added to the cheapest drinking water, as I've seen in Germany since 2020.
It's a highly toxic substance. You can read how toxic it is. It likes to be stored there. We have aluminium everywhere too. Some of it's used in water treatment. Partly we have it in the air. It's in the cookware and everything possible, in aluminium foil, anywhere from A to Z. I can get it for free. Then I have the herbicides, pesticides that are used in nature and biology. I've got glyphosate, I've got these things.
I found that so interesting, the carrier substance of glyphosate. I didn't know that either.
Arsenic.
This is unbelievable.
Yeah, unbelievable. There are so many things that you cannot understand. Acid molecules, but also when I'm under a lot of stress, the cortisol, everything's stored in these membranes of this pineal gland and leads to inflammation there. It's Just like that, almost everyone has it, and before the pineal gland was much bigger, it's been said that the pineal gland of a healthy 10-year-old is 10 times the size of an adult. It's shrinking, and the body has to start an action again to stop this inflammation caused by this whole foreign substances, toxins, and electric smog that act on the pineal gland and stops the inflammation through calcification. Now, a lot of scientific research proves the dramatic effects. For example, there's not a single MS patient who does not have a calcified pineal gland, and the correlation with cancer and with new cancer cases is similar. That's one of the reasons why a lot does not work, and the pineal gland is the master gland. It regulates all the other glands. It's the king, so to speak. It's the conductor. And if I damage the conductor, what happens to the orchestra? And this conductor also does a lot more. The conductor is also responsible for the day-night rhythm. So at night I regenerate and the corresponding hormones are released through the pineal gland. During the day, there's serotonin, the daytime hormone, and melatonin at night. And under melatonin, the real sleep hormone is formed. That's arginine vasotocin. And that then leads to a real regeneration. And the pineal gland, for example, also controls tens of thousands of enzymes responsible for cell renewal. We renew an average of 7 million cells per second. So that's what the pineal gland does. And now comes the kicker. The pineal gland gives the initial control to the gut area. Which hormones are to be produced when and where they have to go. So the pineal gland basically tells the intestine, and that's where 80% of all hormones are made, which hormones are needed, when, and are then sent there. Now, I'm damaging the pineal gland with all this crap. Aluminium, glyphosate, pesticides, herbicides, all that crap. And it's also electro and magnetosensitive. So the pineal gland is totally vulnerable for everything that comes from outside in the form of electric smog, because it has these calcite antennae. It's set up to receive such signals. Now, it's just getting the wrong ones.
Especially when I see the whole person again now. In the last few years, the same chronic inflammation of the thyroid gland has happened again and again, and the degradation of the thyroid. Now, of course, I see a bit of the connection that one says is the inflammation, the degradation of the thyroid gland in its origin already triggered by the pineal gland, that it's already been damaged, that it makes no sense at all to tinker with the thyroid gland, but that we always have to go to the source.
The whole body is so complex. Everything works together. For example, it was already said in the Middle Ages, pineal gland, hypothalamus and pituitary gland. This has been called the crystal palace. They recognised the value back then. And of course everything works together alternately. If I have a bad bowel now, I also have a problem with all the glands because there are not enough hormones made or enzymes made that I need. And so I have an interaction of all of them. Everything's interconnected, and that's no longer considered today. If I do damage there, then I have more effects.
How would you proceed now? That the pineal gland got damaged in our society, that is out of the question. But how can we go about it now? Maybe to achieve regeneration or any processes? Can it regenerate again, rebuild?
There is nothing in the body that cannot regenerate.
Nice.
You just have to look at it, because everything, the whole body, is completely renewed 10 to 15 times in life. No molecule is the same, no atom's the same. And all cells renew themselves regularly. It takes a little longer for some organs, 6 months. For bones, it might take a few years or whatever. But there are also cells that renew themselves every day. But all cells renew themselves sooner or later, with the exception of a few nerve cells. Incidentally, with nerve cells, we now also know that even there is damage. Other brain regions can take over the task. And today there's the concept of neuroplasticity. There's a repair hormone for repairing nerve cells. This produces BDNF, which can also be activated, but I just have to activate the repair processes in the body, and I have to take care of one thing. I have to decalcify the pineal gland. I have to reduce this lime layer, the protective layer, which then indirectly leads to the shrinking of the pineal gland. How can you do that? With the pineal gland, one cannot talk about the pineal gland if you don't talk about the Schumann frequency, because the pineal gland has the Schumann frequency as its natural vibration, and the pineal gland is recalibrated by the Earth's magnetic field via the Schumann frequency every 30 seconds to the Schumann frequency, and the reception of these signals takes place via these calcites. So, and now the pineal gland, as I said, has the Schumann frequency as its own vibration. The Schumann frequency is 7.83 Hz. Now, there's a lot of discussion that it would have changed completely upwards. And this is correct for harmonics above the Schumann frequency, but the Schumann frequency itself, the 7.83 Hz, are a constant that is calculated from the circumference of the Earth in relation to the speed of light. It was calculated in 1952 as a constant, and it wasn't until 1960 that it could be proven, this measurement. So, what do I have to do? I have to calibrate this pineal gland back into this harmonic vibration, into the natural frequency. And there are different ways of doing that. For example, I work here at my Cell Energy Centre on Mallorca with a technology called Schumann 3D systems. And with it, via three-dimensional clockwise oscillations, the Schumann frequency is mechanically fed into the pineal gland. How can it absorb it? It can absorb it because the pineal gland is located in a cavity. This cavity is called the third ventricle. But it's not empty. The cavity is not empty. There's a brine-like liquid, like in the amniotic sac. And what happens to water when I make it vibrate? It resonates. If I throw a stone into the water, I have this vibration everywhere. And I can use this Schumann frequency to calibrate it back into the harmonic natural oscillation that it normally has. And then I also have this water movement through the three-dimensional clockwise vibrations. It's also energizing, and that also leads to detoxification, purification and decalcification, all at the same time. Of course, I have to work it a bit with dietary supplements in there. And the superstar in the decalcifying the whole body is vitamin K2. You know that. And there are also tricks like tamarind or spirulina is good, or Brazil nuts give a lot of selenium and vitamin E. There's a record of what can be done well there. And what also helps, I of course also use it, I've also prepared a little video that we can maybe show now.
Yes, let's take a look at this.
And that's the handheld probe from the Cell Tuner. Cell Tuner is a technology, for me, one of the best inventions of all time in the field of health and water treatment, water vitalisation. What do you do with this handheld probe? With this handheld probe, you can add a portfolio of information frequencies. The Schumann frequency also plays a role here, as information frequency in there. And basically, also in the pineal gland, there are, of course, mitochondria, the energy supply and so on in the whole cells. I also have to energise the mitochondria, give the mitochondria more energy again, and I gave this by the fact that in-phase information frequencies are played on these mitochondria, and through constructive interference, the natural vibration of the mitochondria is increased in the pineal gland. You do that by taking this handheld probe and hold it at the back of the upper neck where the little hollow is. This has many other advantages because with this vibration information frequency, it's also the case that if there are also viruses or bacteria in the pineal gland that don't belong there, out of the mitochondria, they generate energy, generate heat, something like artificial fever that could then neutralise these pathogens. So also a huge advantage. And I also create hexagonal fluids in this ventricle. And these hexagonal fluids very strongly support the purification and detoxification processes because I've got to get these poisons out of there. I have to decalcify with K2, tamarind, spirulina, Brazil nuts and so on. At the same time, I need a good cell environment there. I have to optimise this water. I can do that with the Cell Tuner. And also bring more energy into the mitochondria. And then I've achieved a lot.
If you work with your patients, are there any changes where you say you have already recognised here the hormones, the whole metabolism, the intestine does not work, that there are such experiences, individual testimonials, that we are of course never allowed to generalise, but I'm just interested, what does the individual really get out of it?
The general state of health is simply improved. I just have to support the body to do its job. The body can do it all. It can also get rid of these toxins, but if it becomes too much and the supply's never stopped, it has no chance either. And then I also have to ensure a good cell environment. A good cell environment is always hexagonal water. Structured hexagonal water, pure water, is a fantastic solvent for getting rid of toxins. With hexagonal water, I also have these negatively charged layers of water. The exclusion zones, no toxins or anything can dissolve there. It's moved to the side and can be easily transported away. I have to support nature everywhere in order to be able to do its job. And nature can solve everything. But if I permanently cover it with impairments, with new supply of toxins, permanent electromagnetic radiation, I don't even have a chance to get out of there at night. Then a lot is damaged. For example, whatever the pineal gland does, the pineal gland makes a hormone called epithalamin. This hormone then ensures that the other cells produce telomerase. Telomerase is an enzyme that counteracts telomere shortening. So telomerase repairs the telomeres. Telomeres are like protein snakes attached to the back of the chromosomes. And when they are gone, after each cell division, the Hayflick limit is reached, so to speak, then these cells can no longer divide. In the end, that means death. And via this epithalamin, the cells are stimulated to form a repair enzyme, telomerase, which counteracts the shortening of the telomere. So the pineal gland cannot be rated highly enough. And you have to know that it's very small. It's perhaps the size of a bean. And after the kidney, it's the organ with the second most blood supply. How can that be? Just because it's so paramount.
Crazy, okay? From the construction now. Wait, take a short break. This has never happened to me now. Wait. Is there anything else you would like to say about the pineal gland? The question.
The pineal gland has another characteristic that's also interesting.
Wait, I'll ask you again now. We have to make a cut here. What are the other important points about the pineal gland from your point of view? What else do you have to say?
The pineal gland has piezoelectric properties. Piezoelectric properties mean that I can convert pressure into electrical energy. Connective tissue can do that, and Mohammed Khalifa has shown that with connective tissue, that's why he's had such unbelievable successes in healing, with torn ligaments and so on with his fingers, because he built up a lot of pressure. Now you ask yourself, okay, if that pineal gland has piezoelectric properties, how can I put the pressure on the pineal gland, which is at the top of the spine, just below the brain region? There are possibilities. It's so sensitive that it even perceives the heartbeat. These little pressure waves are enough. If I come now with a Schumann frequency and bring this brine-like liquid in this cavity into vibration, I of course developed a completely different strength and create more energy for the pineal gland by producing more electricity. But there is also a breathing technique, how to push the spinal fluid in the back of the spine by tensing the bottom and lower back area, and then you can push the spinal fluid upwards and then activate the pineal gland to produce more electricity. And when people really master it, then another process takes place. Then the pineal gland can make a substance called DMT, dimethyltryptamine, and that's a spirit molecule. It's basically like a drug that the body can produce itself via the pineal gland. I have visions and everything I can do with that, with breathing techniques. That is possible. And the Schumann frequency is, of course, extremely helpful, and especially these Schumann frequencies with this three-dimensional oscillation.
Could it be, if you go into the future now, or maybe into the old knowledge, that we used to communicate via the pineal gland, that it is actually also a means of communication?
That is definitely the case. That was at all times the state of science, that the pineal gland is the opening outward to receive signals from universal sources of information, from universal consciousness. That's been the case at all times, and many also say the very great scientists, or the geniuses from Leonardo da Vinci to Tesla to Einstein, that, strictly speaking, They had that third eye, that pineal gland opened, and all the ingenious ideas, which they subsequently recalculated and proved that they were correct, were brought in from outside. And the pineal gland is the recipient for it. And today, unfortunately, that's no longer considered in society, and now you just have a calcified pineal gland. But that's nonsense. This is a regression of society, especially with regards to spirituality and so on.
Yes, also certainly this empathic or gut feeling. In order to feel, is that correct? Does it feel right? Is it a lie or whatever? I think that is, of course, now, especially in this day and age, actually a central tool for what we need most urgently right now.
The pineal gland is certainly part of this aspect, but the heart is also part of it. The heart can perceive all this outside information and so on also very well. And then the solar plexus, because there, they say, is a subconscious. The three things are connected, but the pineal gland has an extremely important function. And in my opinion, it's very underestimated today. It is no longer noticed. And then you also see the pineal gland, for example, is also light sensitive. You can see this in the fact that blind people also have the day-night rhythm, the circadian rhythm. The pineal glands, the pineal cells are amazing. They are electrosensitive, have piezoelectric properties. They're sensitive to light, can produce all kinds of hormones, can control everything, can produce enzymes. So this is really insane. But when I'm always exposed to radio waves, then the electrosensitivity causes that less melatonin is produced, and less melatonin means less arginine tocin, bad regenerative sleep, and I can no longer rejuvenate at night and no longer compensate for the damage I brought in during the day. So you really have to do something massively. And that's where vitamin A helps, that's where vitamin D3 helps, which is also a very important vitamin for the pineal gland, zinc and so on. And of course you can also supplement melatonin, you should too. We've had phenomenal results too, from pancreatic cancer to infectious diseases, to infections in general inflammation. Melatonin is a little miracle substance in the body, and it's given far too little attention. In Germany and Spain, the dosage of what you can buy in the dietary supplement area is a joke. Dosages of 1.9 milligrams in Spain, for example. There's nothing more. Americans supplement 5 or 10 milligrams. And there's Professor Edinger, who then requires a prescription, and he also has his creams with 100, 200, 300 milligrams. I also believe that the transdermal use of active ingredients will increase in the future, that they will get into the bloodstream immediately through these creams, and then nothing is held back in the digestive tract.
Okay, yes, that's another keyword on the subject of creams, but we're going to do an interview about all these rejuvenation stories and look how can grow old.
The pineal gland plays a key role here.
Yes, great. We'll do that in our next interview. If you want to find out more now, especially with the hand probe device you showed, with the cell tuner, are there any sources?
People should go to the website. It's called quantisana.ch. There are also a lot of documents and experience reports stored there.
Great, thank you very much. That really impressed me. The functions that this little gland has. Let's take care of the gland now, I would say, right? Thank you. See you soon, Pierre.
Bye.
To conclude, what should I say? The pineal gland really seems to be a very important central point in our body. If the intestines and all the hormone regulations are controlled by it, it is definitely worth it to take a look and to find out more about it. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching and see you soon. Bye.